Hey guys, it's Will. It's Hong Kong Cinema Appreciation Society. Welcome back to the channel. If you are new to the channel, welcome and thank you for finding us. I hope you are doing well. If you're not subscribed, you could subscribe. That would be a huge help. Thank you very much. My hair is doing what my hair is doing. I don't know what is going on with my hair today. It's completely out of control, but there's not really much I could do about it. It has a mind of its own. I want to give a big shout out to our patrons over on Patreon because the movie I'm going to be talking about today, which I will show you right here, it is Holy Flame of the Martial World. So if you know about this movie, holy shit, this movie, it's bad shit insane. Okay, so this is from the Shot Scope Volume 4, and actually, both the other movie here is Opium and the Kung Fu Man. Both of these movies are bad shit insane. We won't be talking about this one today. This is a double feature, so as you can see, there's the two discs in here. This is from the Shot Scope Volume 4, set from Shout Factory, and so this was something that I bought with money from Patreon. So this will be a Patreon early release video. So if you want to see videos like this, and like I reviewed recently 5 Element Ninjas, that's up on Patreon right now too as an early release. If you want to see that stuff early, you can go and you can sign up for $2 a month, $5 a month. I think those are the two tiers we have right now. When I do polls so people can pick what we're doing as like the early releases and the exclusives. So yeah, big shout out to our patrons. And so there you go. So I can show you the physical release. This is the film we'll be talking about. Like I said, it is called Holy Flame of the Martial World. It was released in 1983. It's about 90 minutes long. June 10th of 1983 is the release date. And actually, I'm recording kind of early in the morning. So I got into work before everybody else so I could record this video in my office before it gets crazy, before all the bustle starts. So here's my coffee. Good morning. Cheers. Coffee mug cheers if you're drinking coffee too, or whatever you're drinking. I work at a university, so it's also spring break. So it's like this week is very chill because there's no students here, but still like people do come into the office. So this movie was directed by Tony Lu Chunku. Tony Lu Chunku. I'm struggling to read my own handwriting yet again. He directed Holy Virgin versus the Evil Dead, which is a movie I freaking love. And 88 Films is putting that out on Blu-ray this year. And I'm really excited about that. And so that got me really excited about this. This is my first time seeing this movie, which people, when this set came out, everyone was like, you have to watch that movie. It's insane. So I have watched that movie. He also directed, I think, Bastard Swordsman. So he has a pretty impressive resume. And then it was co-written by Chung Kwok Yoon. And I mentioned that because I'm going to talk about some stuff about I don't know if you call it the screenplay, the arrangement of the information within the film, because I don't know how screenplays were written at Shaw Brothers. I don't know if they sat down and actually wrote like a script or they were just like on set kind of coming up with ideas, but whatever you want to call the way that the film is kind of arranged, the structure of it, the characters, I want to talk about that because that was what I liked the most about it. Maybe not that I liked the most about this movie, but the thing that really kind of latched me onto it, if you want to call it that. I'll talk about that in a minute. Max Mock is in this film, looking very, very, very young. Lian Lau, Young Jing Jing, Lao Su Kwan, Jason Pai Pugh, Philip Kwok is in this movie, who is amazing, Philip Kwok. And I think he was one of the action coordinators too for this film. So let me give you a little bit about the plot, and then I'll give you my thoughts on this film. And hopefully this won't be a super long review. I mean, the nutshell is this is a really fun, completely insane, visually maximalist, high energy, classic kind of late Shaw Brothers old school martial arts film. There's lots of fighting. There's lots of amazing sets. There's a great cast. The fight choreography is fantastic. It's a very innovative and bizarre film in terms of its visuals. The narrative is not particularly bizarre. So the story behind this film is there's something called the Holy Flame of the Martial World, which as we come to find out, you don't really know exactly what it is at the beginning of the movie, but as you come to find out, it is a weapon that is tied to a creed. And there's actually, well, maybe that's a spoiler. Let's not go all the way into that. But so it's a weapon and it's tied to a creed. And there are all these martial artists who believe that if they get it, they will have like the ultimate power and will be undefeatable. And so they're trying to kill this young couple who has 2 young kids because they know where it is and no one else knows where it is. It's like hidden, right? It's like this secret thing. And so the opening scene, and this is not really a spoiler because it's the opening scene, this couple gets killed and their kids get separated. One of the kids is taken by who is essentially a good guy who wants to protect the kid. And the other one is taken by the bad people who killed the parents. So one of the kids is raised by it's a girl. The girl is raised by these bad people who killed her parents, but she has no idea that they killed her parents, right? The good guy is raised by the son rather, excuse me, is raised by the good guy who trains him in martial arts and teaches him that, like, when you come of age, you have to go out and get revenge, right? So the plot of that's the setup of the film. The plot is relatively simple. The mentor, the good guy, tells the young man who is the son, you have to go and get the holy flame of the martial world to complete your martial arts training so you can get revenge. And the bad guys are like, oh crap, this guy is coming for us. We gotta get ready. And then, there's a series of conflicts and fights and some intrigue, and then the movie is over. So it's like a pretty simple setup, and it's kind of like a hero's journey for the young man. He's raised in seclusion, and then he goes out into the world and he learns things about the world, and his views about certain things change. And he learns about all the villains that are out there, and there's good people and there's bad people and stuff. Like kind of like a classic narrative of that style, almost like like a Greek kind of thing about, like, what's his face, Telemachus, is that the name of the kid in the Odyssey? It's not the Odyssey, but like, this is a narrative that's thousands of years old, right, where like the hero goes out into the world and learns that the world is not exactly what he thought it was, and there are challenges, and he grows as a result of that. There were a couple things that struck me as really interesting about the narrative. First, let me talk about the batshit insane element of it. The craziness, like I said, the narrative is really pretty standard, and the way the movie is shot is pretty standard. Like, there's not camera angles that are going to blow your mind. There's not like crazy Steadicam stuff or like really innovative things in terms of the way that the camera is used. The craziness of the movie is really in this insane maximalist visual and auditory style. And in that way, it honestly kind of reminded me of like anime, or like a completely insane animated movie like Alice in Wonderland, which is very clearly influenced by LSD, like psychedelic drugs, right? And it has this very strong element of like counterculture, like LSD imagery and tone that reminded me of like, counterculture kind of 60s movies, animated films, animation of just like, it's like loud, it's crazy. It's very, very, very colorful and like these really bright, bold colors. And it has like, the music is amazing in this movie. One of the things I thought was really interesting about the music is that it has like traditional kind of Chinese sounding music, but then it has like weird ass like synthesizer music and like bizarre sound effects, like that type of like gurgling synth like weirdness. Some of the imagery in this film honestly reminded me a little bit of the Boxer's Omen. It's not as grotesque as that movie at all, but like the way that the lighting is used and the combination of music and imagery. And there's just nutso stuff in this movie, and it's like that you wouldn't typically see, I think, in a live action movie. Like, there's one scene where a character kind of like jumps into this cave, and then the floor of the cave is like all black, and there's like neon red writing on it. It almost looks like you're like looking at a neon sign in like the darkness of the night or something like that. And then you're like, wait, what? That's like the floor of this cave? And then like all this crazy stuff starts happening in this cave, and like it really feels like an animated film where like the filmmakers are like untethering themselves from the confinements of reality and having to put a camera down and make something. And they're just like, what is the most insane thing, the most visually interesting, maximalist, arresting, like loud, original, like tripped out thing we can think of? And how do we do that as live action? And it's really interesting. And there's like some special effects that are like, there's these ghosts in one scene in the movie that are completely nuts, but they're like pretty dated special effects. There's like flying skeletons, there's exploding bodies. There are some elements of the plot, like the bare, like the most fundamental kind of level of the plot, the analysis of the movement of the story is very kind of traditional. There are some elements of like, there's this cult, for instance, that kidnaps underage girls and drains their blood to try to make invincible zombies. When that happened, I was like, oh yeah, this is nuts. This movie just went like from like this level of nuts to like this level of nuts, and then it just keeps going up, right? But there's stuff like that where you're like, wait, what? And there's like multiple scenes where there are like flying skeletons and like melted bodies and exploding bodies, and like people's skin changes to like this weird shiny reflective metallic hue, and like it's a very bizarre, insane movie. Now, here's what I want to say about that. when you have a movie that's like this very kind of chaotic, loud, crazy, maximalist movie with like lots of violence, and there's like some horniness in this movie. There's a really funny scene where like it seems like a sex scene, but it's actually not. Like the way they fake you out, it's like really, really funny. There's some really silly humor in this movie, right? But what I really liked about this film is that you can sit and watch this movie, and like every minute, every 2 minutes, every 5 minutes, whatever, you'll be like, "What the fuck is going on? This movie is insane!" Right? It's insanely entertaining for the WTF memeable like aspect of it. Okay, but what took it to the next level for me in terms of my personal involvement in is there's some really interesting character stuff that in the really mostly in the second half of the film really drew me into it. So, and I'll give you my concrete examples of that. The young woman who's separated at birth from her brother, and she's taken and raised by who are in essence the bad guys, right? She doesn't know who she is. She doesn't know these people killed her parents. She doesn't know she has a brother out there, like anything like that. So the woman who raised her, who has this martial arts sect of all women, right? She lies to her, and she's able to manipulate her and tell her these things that distort her perception of reality, right? But the woman also has her own like innate sense of goodness. So even though she thinks that like this one thing is reality, she also can kind of see through some of the things she's being told. But she has a very strong allegiance to her school, to her like the other women in the school are kind of like her sisters, and to the woman who raised her. So this really interesting moral conflict for her of believing reality is one thing and wanting to trust all the people around her, but while also kind of intuitively knowing that something is not quite right. That creates a really interesting moral conflict. Now, there's really two bad guys. There's the woman who raised the girl. Then you have this other guy who's like, he actually kind of looks like James Hetfield from Metallica, which cracked me up like the whole movie. It's like every time I saw him, girl, like think about Metallica and that voice that James Hetfield has. It's light. Like I kept hearing Enter Sandman in my head when I would see this character who looks like James Hetfield. But anyway, he has a protege, the guy who looks like James Hetfield. And the protege character ends up meeting the young man who is the son who's separated at birth from his sister. And he sees this guy's like a really good guy. He's very good at martial arts, but he's also like a really good, morally correct person who like saves other people's lives, like for no reason. Like there's no interest in it for himself. He's just saving people's lives. He's like doing nice things for people. He's like very like friendly and easy to get along with. He's like a good person. Then he finds out that guy is the mortal enemy of his master, and that creates a really interesting moral conflict for him. And then you have this really interesting generational conflict where the older characters are like, kill, 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 everyone is everyone's enemy, revenge, revenge, revenge. And the younger characters are like, we all kind of like each other. Like, can we just like fuck off and be friends? Like, do we have to kill everybody? And that is interesting to me in a way, because like I said, I do see some counterculture, like psychedelic drug, like 1960s, 1970s kind of influence on this film. That is a very counterculture theme of our parents are wrong. The way they see the world is incorrect. Not everything has to be conflict and violence. We can get along. We can see the shades of gray in morality here, and that the world is not what it appears to be, not what we were told that it is, right? That's very counterculture. So to see that at the same time as you have a film that seems visually very inspired by counterculture cinema and like drug cinema, LSD, like that kind of an animation, like again, Alice in Wonderland, I know it's just one example, but there's like a whole kind of, subgenre, whatever you want to call it, of like animated films inspired by psychedelic drugs that I'm not super familiar with that kind of world. I've seen some of those films, but can't remember titles off the top of my head. And you even have stuff like Jodorowsky, like Holy Mountain. Like there's stuff in this film visually that is not dissimilar from what Jodorowsky was doing in like the Holy Mountain, right? So it very much feels like there is like a counterculture, like kind of hippie psychedelic influence on this film that's very pronounced. But like I said, it's the characters and their moral conflicts and the complexity of the character relationships was what really made me love this movie. I love the batshit insanity of it, right? But to me, that's pure insane entertainment, right? You want to tell your friends, like, you got to see this movie. It's completely insane, right? The thing that really grabbed me about it, and it really grounded me in the world of the film, that really made me want to see what happened to these characters, right? Like, I stopped watching for the minute to minute what the fuck is going on aspect of it, and I started watching because I really genuinely cared about how it was going to play out with these characters because of their moral conflicts, and that became the thing that was most interesting to me about this film. So the film is Holy Flame of the Martial World. If you love old school martial arts movies and just batshit insane movies, you will love this movie. It is so insane and so entertaining in its insanity. But I also think that there's an other level to this movie where there's some really good character stuff going on that I think is really interesting and well done, and that's what really drew me into it. So my name is Will. You are watching Hong Kong Cinema Appreciation Society. As always, we thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.